Welcome to the Driving Forward podcast. It's Thursday, March 6th. Whether you're joining us live or listening on one of our 18 platforms, including Reefs Across America Radio, where we broadcast every Tuesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time, we appreciate your support. Next week, I'll be off. I'm on vacation. We'll be running an episode from the first of the year with Grace Sharkey, Matt Leffler, Chad Olison, and Robert Bain. This was chaos in a bottle, talking about the predictions of 2025. If you didn't watch this episode, you should check it out. And let us know how we're doing so far. March 10th through the 13th. We'll be at ATA TMC, the Technology and Maintenance Council annual meeting in Nashville, Tennessee. GLCS's very own Susan Mayo and Zach Barnhouse will be there. If you're going to be around and want to talk technology of any kind, reach out, let us know. We'd be happy to meet you. Almost immediately following TMC is TCA Truckload 2025 in Phoenix, March 15th through 18th. Join GLCS's Susan Mayo, again, Mike Turner, and Robert Bain at this event. Carriers, if you haven't signed up, remember the registration, whether you're a member or not, is only $500 this year. If you want more details on this, go to tcaconvention.com. or look back a few weeks on our YouTube channel and watch the episode we had with Xander Gamble and David Heller from TCA. Be sure to swing by our booth as well to sign up for a great giveaway. We'd love to see you there. Freight Movement now has a booth at Matt's, booth number 38601. There's tons of booths there. It's a huge event. If you haven't been to Matt's, that's the Mid-America Truck Show in Louisville coming up on the week of the 28th. You really should attend at some time. It's absolutely epic. We've teamed up with our friends at Freight Ninja Parking Solutions and the Logistics Lounge to put together even a bigger space. So we'd absolutely love it if you swing by to chat and talk freight. And we'll see if we can get you on the air. We're going to be supporting a ridiculous number of podcasts. I just found out we're right across from Charles Gracey and Cents Per Mile. And a number of other friends are really close by. So we're right next to a bunch of friends as well. And this is going to be one heck of a space to hang out if you're in the area. So we're looking forward to Matt's this year. Additionally, with Matt's, Freight Movement and Broker Carrier Summit, the Big Road Tour is going to Matt's Friday night, March 28th, following the concert from 9 p.m. to midnight. We're holding an event downtown Louisville at the Tavern on 4th. If you haven't been to one of our events yet, you do not know what you're missing. If you're a driver, broker, owner, operator, company owner, freight tech bro, it does not matter. We want to see you there. We're still looking for some partners to help us out at the event. I think we just secured 3 or 4. But if you're interested, reach out to me on any social media channel. We'd love to have a chat. We'll put up signups in the comments for this event. Sign up now. There is limited space. We look forward to seeing you all there. And the final announcement will be at Broker Carrier Summit, April 28th through May 2nd in Indianapolis. BrokerCarrierSummit.com. At Broker Carrier Summit, we're on a mission to transform the relationship between carriers and brokers. Say goodbye to distrust and hello to mutually beneficial partnerships. We believe the key to this transformation lies in fostering open communication, enhancing education, and meaningful connections. For a discount code, use our code FREIGHT, FR8 MVMT. And on to our guest. Ladies and gentlemen, Start your engines. Coming in hot, straight from the open road to the airwaves. He's the freight slayer, the regulation wrecker, the heavyweight champion of trucking truth. The one, the only, the Charles, the hot seat Gracey, a former driver who's taken the fight from the cab to the boardroom. He's the founder of Hot Seat Services, the voice behind Cents Per Mile, and a SiriusXM radio powerhouse. If there's a battle to be fought in trucking, tariffs, regulations, retention, he's in the ring, throwing haymakers. No fluff, no filter, just straight up truth. Buckle up, because once the hot seat gets fired up, there's no slowing down. Well, let's go. Nice to have you here, Charles.
It's nice to be here. How you doing, my guy?
I'm doing great. So you've been
that was a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. I mean, you know, I talk a lot. You should know that by now. So,
you know, when I was young, my mom would pay me to shut me up, and now people pay to hear me talk. It's insane.
Yeah, we definitely have that in common. So, well, you put us together, and I don't know who's talking to who. So, but yeah, I definitely appreciate you coming on. That's great. You're able to join us today. I'm going to kick this off really quick. You started, and then we'll see where this journey goes. Cause I mean, I did not put a whole lot. Usually I kind of craft a journey for us to go down. And I sort of went all over the place with our thoughts, cause we've talked a lot. So, and I know if you just sit us down, we'll go anywhere. So, and I put a post out earlier today and said, you'll get me to talk about things I normally probably won't talk about. So that might happen too. So we'll see what happens. But you started as a truck driver.
Yeah.
And worked your way up to an executive and an industry advocate. So we kind of share that in common. What's been your single hardest lesson and the single largest lesson that you've had on this journey so far, and how has that shaped you along this way?
Man, that's a tough one. Hitting the
haymakers,
right. So there's different lessons at different levels. Like when I came out of the cab, I was a driver going into the office, and one of the hardest lessons is not everything that comes out of anyone's mouth it translates to truth all the time, or it might be their truth, but that doesn't necessarily translate to the truth of the situation, because perspective is one's reality. So I came out championing all the complaints that the drivers had, and I turned around and I got caught with my pants around my ankles a couple times, and I'm like, hold on, we need to start going down these rabbit holes a little bit more and doing some due diligence. So that was a tough lesson, and it was a hurdle. I had to change my perspective. I would say the biggest hurdle for me was putting myself out there. I never did the social media thing. I know, shocker, spoiler alert. I didn't do the social media thing. I didn't even care to do the social media thing until I had to. And I didn't realize the value in it. It just wasn't something that was on my radar. And then people actually wanted to hear what I had to say. And the more I learned to be authentic, the more I learned to speak my truth, the more I realized people actually were able to relate to that. In the beginning, I was pretty guarded, and I kept just doing the typical, like, oh, it's a business post. So I'd say the hardest thing for me and hardest lesson to be learned was just being myself and putting myself out there and people accepting that.
No, I can relate to that. It took me a long time. I always wrote, so I never had a problem writing. I say, well, not until a few years ago, I guess I was pretty quiet as well. And then putting that visual key out really was a year and a half ago. And that was a leap of faith. And then it's really become now. I remember, we have a promo that'll come up here in a little bit for Matt's, and Matt's last year was something that was a lot of fun for me because, by then we had done maybe 20 episodes, and there was just a change in it. And we did some recordings. That was the first time I've ever done a non-live recording. everything had been live prior to that. So it was like, hey, let's have some fun with some stuff that's not actually live for once. So everything I do is live. So
See, I'm the opposite on it.
Yeah.
I actually thoroughly enjoy the live stuff because it is super authentic. There is no editing. People are going to see you make a goof. It's actually an ongoing thing on cents per mile. We switch the phrasing in our announcing sponsors at the beginning, and I get tongue tied every time. And so Paul started busting my chops and like, and if you want to suggest to be a host, if Charles can't learn to speak soon, it's just been one of those things where, it's the little nuances of being live versus being pre-recorded that you learn to appreciate the other.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, there's things I enjoy about both of them. And, the live side, honestly, we do the live side because the amount of work that I see, the amount of work that you guys do in the production level is extremely top notch. And that's what I would require if I did a recording. So it is hard to do a good production level live show. And, it's absolutely hard.
I disagree. This one's awesome.
This is hard to do.
The problem with it, you keep one in the hole is
Right.
You can always keep going back to that well and trying to improve on it. And eventually you have to put a line in the sand is like, this is good. But the more you sit there with it, the more it resonates with you like, oh, I could change this. I could do this. And it never stops.
Yeah. No, I'm not knocking what we do by any means. It's very hard to keep a live show, keep it right, keep it structured, keep everything, going. We keep the guests on, keep it queued. That's another level of energy. And then, as the recording, you keep it, it's just a different tier of how you work things. And so
I'm living my peak right now. I'm on Driving Forward with you, buddy.
Bingo. So there we go. All right. So back to industry topics. So, because we'll sit here and talk about shows forever, and only certain people want to hear that. So we need to talk about that over a beer, not over the show. So, so let's jump into your stuff. Let's talk about driver shortages, because you nailed me with that one, and back at Broker Carrier Summit in Fort Worth. So let's just jump into that.
Lack of driver shortages.
Yeah. Let's see where that goes. So is there a driver shortage? Is it a retention problem? What's your?
It's an everything problem. It's self-inflicted pain by the industry. There is no driver shortage. There's a shortage of drivers willing to work for peanuts. There's a shortage of drivers that meet today's carriers' standards. There's a shortage of people that want to do certain jobs with today's job market when they have alternatives. If I can make $15 an hour driving a truck locally, or I could make $15 an hour not being a rolling lottery ticket and be home nightly and working in the warehouse with zero liability, which is someone going to choose? And I think it comes down to us looking internally as an industry and individual companies and even as departments and saying, how can we be better? Now, some of the stuff makes sense. I understand things evolve. The work history thing, that's a big DQ factor out there right now. Historically, for a driver to advance their pay, they had to make a lateral move. And you're talking to make a move for a couple cents. We're not even talking dollars. We're talking cents.
Yeah. A couple thousand a year, typically.
So this industry has created that. And now we're penalizing them for having too many jobs, where you and I, we could just, white knuckle it up at the desk, turn around and hustle and make more money. They have to go somewhere else most often. Then you have the SAP program. There's tons of drivers that have completed the program, but can't re-enter the workforce. Why? There's various reasons, insurance, but then there's the capacity. Most carriers are near capacity. If you're not near capacity now, you're doing something wrong.
Right.
You seriously wrong, because most carriers are at capacity. When they get to capacity, they can select and choose a higher tier quality to enter their workforce
at a lower pay.
So there is tons of drivers out there on the market. So I disagree with the narrative of there's a driver shortage. There's a shortage of people that meet today's standards that we have created because of the environment we have built.
No, I agree with that. I've said it for the majority of my career, it's never a driver shortage issue. It's a shortage of good jobs for drivers. And I I, I was speaking about this with a customer that I was visiting this week. I did a road tour Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And maybe 15 years ago, I visited this customer and they said, we couldn't we can't get drivers to grow. And I said, well, we can't find them. We can't find them. And I said, you need to turn around and look. There's a freeway out this window, and there's probably 100,000 drivers that come by you every day. That's a number off the top of my head, but busy road, busy freeway. And you just need to learn how to get them to come into your building and sign up. And they've figured that out. I mean, they had a good job. It was a confusing pay package. So, create the optics, and they had a great job that paid well, confusing pay package. So,
you mean you didn't find drivers that wanted to have a secret codex to unlock how they were going to get paid?
you find those quite frequently, to be honest with you. So
You do.
sometimes, when your pay package is 5 pages long and you're doing over the road freight, you have the wrong pay package. This is, guys should not have to call out.
I got one better for you. The sign-on bonuses. I have this conversation all the time, and it's amazing to me how many recruiting managers and directors are against these, but then someone above them in the ivory tower is like, we need a sign-on bonus. Well, hey, it pays out one payment after 3 months, one after 9 months, one after a year. That's not a sign-on bonus. That's a retention bonus. And today's drivers have been rope-a-doped by these things enough times to realize that there's a reason that's in place. If you need money to attract someone to your job, you have problems.
Right.
If you have to list respect as a job perk, you have bigger problems. Respect is something that's given. It's not something that you get to list as a job perk.
Right. Yeah, I've called those out too. The sign-on bonus being one thing, but the sign-on bonus that continues forever being so, especially going back a while when sign-on bonuses first sort of came around, that was one thing. They were usually a one-time payout, or a very short period payout. And then they became, over a year or potentially longer. And then they stop, and then everybody wonders why everyone leaves after the sign-on bonuses stop, because they are a retention bonus. And there's nothing wrong with a retention bonus as long as it's actually a retention bonus that continues on forever. So
and it goes even deeper than that. You see, it's the labeling of it. If you're going to structure a retention bonus, call it what it is. If it's a sign-on bonus in any other job, from professional sports to executive level, when you get a sign-on bonus, that's paid out almost immediately upon you walking in the door.
Yep.
I'm a huge advocate for transition bonuses. I think it's the path less traveled when it comes to the recruiting side, but a lot of people talk about it. They just don't do anything to address. There's a transition period for a driver. When a driver's coming into your organization, there's a transition period from the pay you promised them to what they're actually making during that transition, why the dispatcher gets to know them, why the lane gets to know them, why they get to know their dispatcher. They're not hitting that mark. I'm a huge advocate for putting small. I don't think you need thousands of dollars. Hey, for X amount of weeks, you're going to get an extra couple $100 for the transition bonus. It helps them get a paycheck. It's no secret that most drivers live paycheck to paycheck. Well, while they're on the road, they don't get to feed themselves off hopes and dreams. And you want them running at optimum ability, and you want them optimizing for not only you and that revenue per truck, but for themselves so they stay. So what better way to encourage someone to join your organization than to sit there and give them some stability when they're starting out?
Absolutely, when they're starting out, and you don't want them worrying about how they're going to put food on the table at home. You don't want that worry when they're driving down the road on what that next paycheck's going to look like. You want to give them that bridge. So absolutely,
it's relationships. People need to treat the drivers like they do their business relationships and everything else, and go in there with their best foot forward. We can sit there and trauma bond all day over this stuff. I mean, what we do to today's drivers is wrong.
Yeah.
And without them, there is no business model.
Yeah. Oh, that's where it starts. So the whole thing starts and ends ultimately at the truck. I mean, that's it. If you're not beginning at the truck, and if we don't come back to the truck in the end, we're going nowhere. So
I'll throw another dart out there for you. So
sure.
there's people that try to do it right. I was part of an initiative for a carrier where they were rolling out a new pay package. They really had the best of intentions with this pay package. It was a choice, driver's choice. You could choose a daily pay, a salary, or hourly pay, or just for some reason, our gut told us keep cents per mile in there as well. Most drivers chose cents per mile because they have been beaten and battered into thinking that that's the best way. As soon as we started explaining the other pay packages, like, no, you're just going to work me like a government mule. That's how much distrust. That's how much of a gap there is between the sides right now. So I think before anything, carriers need to be aware with the best of intentions comes an education piece. You have to build trust and education behind what you're doing. This carrier ran that package for about 30 days before they scrapped it because they weren't ready to have those conversations. And that's where a lot of good intent, there's a lot of good people out there that are trying to do a lot of good for the industry and for today's drivers. Just, I encourage you to form an education piece and understand that there's going to be a gap that you have to fill, and someone's going to have to step to the other side and extend their hand and understanding.
We have a substantial number of customers that have salaries and that have day rates and that have all kinds of interesting pay packages that make a lot of sense for drivers. The over the road fleets, maybe not as much, but in many, there definitely are some that have some guaranteed pay packages and you can exceed them based upon performance. There are many fleets out there that do that. They are few and far between. They're usually not there's some big ones. There's actually, I have a 700-800 truck fleet that we work with that's in that, but they're not, you don't see them everywhere. They're not everywhere, and they have their numbers down, and in many cases it works out very well for the drivers. I mean, and they have good drivers too. They don't have. I mean, I used to say this is we're going to run down some rabbit holes here. So I used to say 10% turnover is not good. That's a bad number for a carrier. You're not turning over enough drivers. So you're keeping a poor percentage of drivers, and call me bad or whatever by saying that, but you're not turning over enough of your poor performers if you're seeing an 8 or 10% turnover. And some of these fleets, they see a 8 or 10% turnover, and they have high performing drivers even into that lower percentile because they just acquire them. So, and they've been doing it that long. So, but they are rare. They are very rare, and I agree with you that it takes a while to develop that type of program.
But it's powerful because if you could fill all your trucks, then you get, as a carrier, you're in a unique position. And a lot of people are going to hate that I'm saying this, but it is the truth. When all your trucks are filled, you can go to your operations team and say, hey, give me a hit list, your 10 lowest performers. And then you go to your safety team and say, hey, give me your 10 people that you believe are a liability to the company. And obviously you can compare those two lists. And if there's a common name, the choice becomes very simple. And that way you are optimizing your fleet, you're optimizing your efforts. And it's something that happens behind the scenes that a lot of people don't like to talk about, but that's actually a healthy exercise if you can get to that level. Now think of how many carriers never get to the point where they're like, I'm not completely full.
Right. And
now we saw that break this year. End of last year and this year, so many people aren't growing their fleets. So many people aren't adding more trucks or drivers for those trucks or lanes to support the trucks that they're bringing on. You're seeing a lot of that. And there's a separate problem that's stemming from that. You got all these people boasting, we're at capacity.
Yeah.
Our turnover is low. Okay, cool. Let's talk about that. Why? What did you do? What did you change? And if the answer is nothing, if you can't directly attribute an action to the reduction in turnover or due to being at capacity, then you are a victim of the market. And in this case, in a good way, except we know the market changes. And when it changes, you're going to be right where you started because you didn't change anything.
And potentially faster and more in a more volatile way.
Yeah.
So it depends. And if you are struggling with drivers right now, watch out.
Yeah, if you're struggling with drivers right now, it's time to hit the red button. Now, there are some unique things that are happening since February, and we could go down to several rabbit holes. I'll try not to. I'm going to stay on path. But we saw a glimpse of hope after the election cycle. People were optimistic. They knew that tariffs were coming into place. So you saw a lot of overseas freight hitting stateside, getting pumped in. You saw the rates represent that. Now everything's kind of started to slump again, and you're starting to see the other side of that. And so what we're seeing right now is lots of drivers apps, lots of people wanting to switch companies, lots of layoffs, lots of reduction in miles and rates. The margins for a carrier, they're getting crushed on every angle right now. Every day I talk to someone, they're getting hit from a different direction. And so naturally, what happens when carriers start getting margins? There's only a couple levers they can pull. So driver pay has come into question again. So something that had risen, balanced out, plateaued for a bit, now starting to see drops in pay.
Right.
I foresee, I'm not going to try to be the Nostradamus of freight here, but I do foresee a little bit more pain before any gains in the foreseeable future this year.
Yeah, I think the next couple of months will be telling, and the impact of the tariffs certainly will show that, or tell us what's going to happen. I agree, but economics of if every carrier is at full capacity or the vast majority, I said it earlier, and it's not because I want to see the pay come down. I'm an advocate for higher driver pay. I've said it a million times, but when there are no jobs for drivers and carriers have tough economic times and they don't have a problem hiring drivers, they're going to look at this. So that is absolutely going to happen. They're going to look at all things. So anywhere and everywhere.
Everything's on the table right now. And I don't think anyone's taking anything off the table. I think a lot of people are playing a pretty conservative hand on what they do right now because no one knows exactly what direction things are going to go. I'm hearing a lot less optimism though than you heard going into the year, and I think it's just people forgot what trucking's like. It's always been a roller coaster. There's ups and downs. We stayed up for so long that when it went down for so long, people forgot what that felt like.
I don't know, man. I will say this: this is the biggest roller coaster that we've ever been going down in my 30-year career.
Yeah, and it is, but it stayed up for a while because of outside contributing factor, and it went absurdly up. So people got used to it. People were buying trucks at rates that they probably shouldn't have. And then when things came down and normalized, they were getting crushed by the very same margins that they put in place.
Right. Yeah, I think we've long since traveled past the gains that they made, and then we have a lot of poor choices that many people continue to make, and for whatever particular reason we are where we are, and somehow, some way we always find the way to get through it because
we will.
That's
then another herd.
The industry does so, and it'll continue to thin. The tariffs will work their way out. The freight has to move, so that it will delay until there's no space in warehouses, and then it'll move because that's what it does. So ships will stack up, warehouses will do whatever. It'll eventually become too costly to move, and then it'll move. That's my prediction to this whole thing. Or the tariffs will break, one of the two, because eventually it gets too costly to hold it. It may stop buying. People may stop buying, but that'll only impact in certain areas. I don't see it winding completely down. Even if you reduce production by a substantial percentage, some of this freight still moves.
Oh yeah, freight's always moving at different levels, and I think that's where people need to you need to make smart choices. If I'm a carrier right now, I'm making smart choices. If I'm a driver, I'm considering my options, and I'm probably going to go want to do some research outside of just social media and checking out Google reviews. Talk to fellow drivers that are at that company. Everyone should be doing their due diligence right now because the choices you make now, you're going to be feeling for a while. The grass is not always greener on the other side. I have this conversation with drivers all the time. I have it with recruiters. I have it with carriers. Everyone's like, oh, the ship's sinking, I'm hopping off. I'd rethink that. This is one of those times where you really need to do your due diligence, because what's going to take place over the next year or two, a lot of change is going to take place.
Right.
Trucking is always changing. And I think there's a lot of outside contributing factors that people are not even giving enough thought to.
No, agreed. So we're going to queue up a couple commercials here. And if you guys have any questions for Charles on recruiting, tariffs, whatever, throw them on out there for us. We're going to talk a little bit about Boy Scouts coming back, because you got Eagle Scout coming up here, and we have that in common. We'll talk some mats when we get back as well. There's some big things coming up there. So we'll take a break here for a couple minutes, and we'll return, but send in some questions if you got them. If your fleet's downtime looks like chaos, you're missing out on GLCS. In the fast-paced world of trucking and logistics, time is everything. Meet GLCS, your expert partner in managed IT services. We integrate seamlessly with your team, bringing seasoned IT professionals with deep transportation and logistics expertise. Imagine your software updates running smoothly, complex issues resolved quickly, and operations humming with efficiency. GLCS has your back. Our support doesn't just fix problems, it prevents them. With our industry connections and proactive approach, we keep your trucks rolling and your brokers working. Think of us as the added resource your company needs to unleash its full potential. Visit glcs.net today and keep your business driving forward. GLCS, where efficiency meets expertise. What is up? We are live from Matt's.
It's just a great experience to celebrate trucking and celebrate the industry and get out and just kind of get pumped up for the busy season.
And we are back. All right. So we were talking about drivers and switching jobs and that type of thing. So there's an entire generation of young people who are not, and I've had this conversation on a couple of different episodes, probably more than a couple. Entire generation of young people who aren't considering trucking as a career. What's your thought on the reasons behind that, and what do we as an industry need to do to change that, to bring them in?
Ooh, man, I'm going to have to pluck from a couple different areas here. So I will say the industry, at least in my opinion, is dialed back on the fun stuff that used to always be associated with trucking. And I will say that I think some places do it better than others. Like, one of the cool things about where I live, trucking's incorporated and supply chain's incorporated in the high school, should you choose that path and get accepted. My son, not even in high school yet, got accepted into the U.S. Express supply chain program. That was his first choice. And I was kind of like proud dad moment. I'm like, look, he wants to be me. I was like, there's layers to this onion, son. Have fun. But that's what he's based his start of high school. When he finishes up this year and goes in the summer, when he comes off, he's going to be doing the supply chain. I'm excited for him on that. Outside of that, I think we just need to overall make trucking sexy again. We need to incorporate it into our communities. And I know that's hard in markets like this, where everyone's cutting wherever they can. It's important to have trucking involved in the community. I think executives and companies need to incorporate their families into the industry. One thing that I remember growing up was and I didn't appreciate it at the time, but every Saturday my dad made me go to work with him, partially because my mom didn't want to deal with me, and my dad worked Saturdays. I've worked in the shop. I learned to drive a truck by a gentleman named John Boomsma, who, if I missed a gear, slipped a gear, grinded one, I caught a Charlie horse. So it was either learn to drive or lose feeling in my leg.
Man, fair enough.
a lot of what he didn't think I received from that exposure, and I'm talking like fast forward from my young years until now, he now sits and watches me work and hears a lot of himself and what I do and how I operate. It carries over, it translates over. It might not be an immediate gratification like a lot of parents want, but it does translate over. I've done the same with my son. I brought my son to Matt's. I've had him on the show. I brought him to the carrier side. He's sat at offices at carriers with me. He's gone out to events with me, and he's excited about it. And he's 14. He'll be 15 this year. And this kid says, I want to be in trucking. He signed up for 2 pathways in school, and that was supply chain and audio video. Guess what? He's got in for my job. Yeah, he's got more hair. It's not on a full retreat. I mean, I'm going to have to work hard to keep him out of my spot. But that's the type of things that we need to encourage. We need to encourage involving people's family. It's how I've done things at Hot Seat. I know my people. I know their families. Our kids talk. We're states away from each other, and our kids talk to each other. I think it's important to recognize how much building that community within your organization goes for not only getting the word out there, but also getting people excited and motivated, and it helps with retention.
No, the family approach to it. That's something. I mean, you still see it at some of the trucking companies, but
outside of Drivers Appreciation Week.
Yeah, I mean, you still see it. I just walked into a company the other day and was talking to him, and one of the brothers of the owners started when he basically just had his driver's license, and he's now, I'm gonna guess he's in his mid-20s, but so it's there, but it's not as prevalent when we were starting. So where you walked into a place and it was all family. I mean, you were the odd man out. So
exactly. And I look at like most from a retention purpose, why I've chosen to stay in trucking. It's rewarding. You get what you put into it. But outside of that, I got some memories from inside this industry that would be hard to recreate somewhere else. I remember the first time I had my father, myself, and my son all on the trip. We were on What the Truck. It was the 3 generations of Charles. My lifetime trucker and transportation exec. You got me, and then you got my son, who's super interested in getting into it. That's an amazing opportunity. I remember bringing my son with me to HMD to race around the Autobahn and the HMD Indy cars. I remember going to race Dooner at Atlanta's Speedway and NASCAR and having my family with me. Of course, my son wishes he got to drive that car, but I did a pretty good job. He thinks he could have done better, but perspective. There's Matt's. That was a super memorable one. I've been to Matt's at every capacity. And I brought my son with me one year, and he hopped on the show and tried to fill my role with Paul. And we got the same name. My son's Charles Jr. And he gets on there. I'm your host, Charles Gracey. He mixed up his name and host and did my little hand sign and everything. And these are things I'm going to be able to look at for a lifetime. Right. And same with him. If you want to build that community and that excitement around trucking, I encourage those moments. It doesn't always have to be, hey, you should be a driver. It should be showing them that there's a pathway, sharing those experiences outside of just a barbecue or picnic. Like, what does trucking actually look like? He gets to see the relationships I built and how beneficial those are, not only to me as an individual, but to the company. I think these are the things that we fail to communicate as well as we should.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think and it's hard. It's hard to do it, but it needs to be intentional. And to your point on Matt's, I'm bringing the whole family this year. So we're bringing an army to Matt's amongst a couple different companies, and I've got 2 of the 3 kids. One's older, and actually the oldest one probably would love to come the most. So. But
mine's hoping to come. He's got a merit badge college that night. Even though he's closing in on his ego, he's doing all the fun ones. So he's doing game design and photography.
Cool. That's great. I saw the pictures from the Eagle Project. That brought back some memories. So my son completed his Eagle Project a number of years ago. So, but you have so let's talk a little bit about Boy Scouts. So, what's some lessons from scouting that stick with you throughout your trucking career?
Be prepared. Be prepared. Honestly, I've overdone that in my life to the point where it probably makes people think I'm OCD on some levels. But I just found simplicity and a calming feeling in being prepared. And I've tried to bring that through my military service into my family and definitely in the trucking, because it can be chaotic at times. I try to imagine every possible outcome, not only from my perspective, but I actually put a post on it today about, stepping into someone else's perspective and looking at it from that way to challenge your own perspectives. I'm always trying to prepare for those different outcomes, how other people are going to perceive things, how I'm perceiving it, and challenging where my stance is. And so that part started in Scouts, being always prepared. Watching him go through it at such a young age is exciting. It's terrifying at the same time, because he's got that same level of excitement and hit the ground running and, do now, think later that I had at that age. And I'm like, well, I know how this is going to, get ready to scuff your knees and stand up a couple times.
Yeah. And I think scouting for my son and for myself, I mean, it gives you those skills to stand up and take leadership and to not be afraid and, to just accept challenges that you probably wouldn't have accepted had you not have. I mean, some kids have other paths to achieve those skills, but many don't. And so I look at it that way, and certainly be prepared is an excellent one. And that's something that you carry throughout your life everywhere. And it never hurts to anticipate your needs that you think you're going to, sometimes you're wrong in what you think you need, but
and own that, learn. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
But you think about the whole culture behind it, being thrifty. Who can't benefit from being thrifty? Who can't benefit from being brave, from being helpful, from being friendly, right, to being courteous? Like these are all things that if you can't get behind them, then I question your motives. I love everything that it's about, and I love everything it gave me. I did Scouts all through. I started out as a Tiger all the way up, and then my son didn't want to do it in the beginning, but then when we moved, it was a way for him to get to meet people. And our scouting community here in Chattanooga is awesome. It's a close knit group, big family. 90% of whoever shows up to events that we're having at our house are these people. He's made a great network of friends, great community. Their outreach is fantastic. His project made me happy. Proud dad moment. I'll take a moment to boast, but he did a project for veterans. And the final part of it's coming up on the Friday, the 21st, during spring break. They're doing a barbecue. Thank you for your service, and unveiling the outdoor seating area and the flag collection bin there. To see him get excited while learning these important lessons in life, what else could a father ask for?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, saw the pictures of the activities they were doing and the benches they were making. And I mean, first off, that would be a great summer job. So those the way that they came together, I mean, you could definitely market those. So
those are some heavy benches, man. Like, they don't look like it in the pictures, but those are some solid benches. I remember picking it up. I'm like, it's just a bench. I'm like, okay, that's right. I'm going to be 40 this year.
Well, yeah, life catches up with you, so there's no doubt. That's great. That's beautiful, and he's gonna be hitting that Eagle pretty soon then.
So March 21st, he does his Eagle, the final stage of his Eagle project, which is that barbecue, and then he's in a rare situation that a lot of them don't find, that he's not racing the age clock, which, a lot of guys that are eagling out or trying to get it done before they hit 18. He's going to be 15 this year. So he's already mapped out like, hey, I'm going to get my Eagle Palms. I'm going to do Order the Arrow. I'm going to be a camp counselor. And I'm like, at his age, I was chasing things other than that. And here he is, he's got his black belt. He's going to get his Eagle. He wants in transportation. I'm like, man, this kid is going to pass me up.
Yep. He's got some ambition. So
it's just trying to channel and harness that at that age too. Like,
yeah, well, he seems to be going down some right pathways, but hopefully you keep him on track. So keep him on track and see where it goes. But
a couple more inches, he'll be bigger than me.
Well, that's not that hard. I've stood next to you. So.
Thanks, Nate. We were on a great track until that. No, you're not wrong. I'm not a tall guy, but by no means do I think I can harness that excitement. And that's what I want. That's what I want for him. That's what I want for people in the industry. If you're in the industry, you should be excited. Like, to me, that's the biggest attribute that I bring to any team is I'm passionate about what I do. It carries over in my communication and my daily action. You can't teach passion. You can teach skills. You can't teach passion.
Right. Yeah. That has to be learned and to some extent and inherited in the way that you're showing it. So he's picking it up. And
I'm glad he got that and not my hairline.
Well, that still might show up. You never know. It's generation though. So let's talk a little bit about Matt's. That's coming up. So a few weeks away, one of the biggest events in trucking, if not, debatably the biggest event in trucking, depending upon how you want to categorize it.
It's massive. Bring your walking shoes.
Yeah. Last year I didn't get to leave, so we were kind of stuck in a corner with Big Rig Tees and Alex Smy, and we just got so busy that we just got stuck there the whole time. We got to walk the floor once, and we had to walk it fast, and we had to get back because we were just so busy. But absolutely, if you're coming, bring your walking shoes. There's a million things to do there, and you can get locked in and find all kinds of fun stuff. But what's your recommendation for people there? There's obviously lots of times I tell people to come in with intention. Matt's is a little different. You can come in with intention and throw that out the window. What's your strategy for Matt's?
So shameless plug, you definitely watch Cents Per Mile on Wednesday next week, because that's exactly what we're talking about. We brought Matt's, Toby Young. We had Trey for Broker Carrier Summit, and then we had Tim Crawford from 10 Streets Uconnect. And the biggest reason we did this episode is these are big events. And it's easy to get lost in there. And the most common advice that everyone had for maximizing your experience at these places is to have intention. To your point, you can plan it out and run into one person, have it throw you off, but have intention and self-audit. Why are you going there? Each day when you're done each day, self-audit. What did you set out to do? What didn't you get done? And how can you fit it in the next day? Because it's easy to get hung up with your friends. It's easy to sit there and find a great conversation from a new contact and get roped in all day when you got that many personalities. I'm there. Where Cents Per Mile is going to be there. One of the best things at Matt's, in my opinion, is that when they rolled out those Pro Talks,
Sure.
A lot of people don't notice those because they get hung up walking the floor and getting their squishy trucks and seeing the shiny chrome, and all of those things are wonderful. Going out in the lot and looking at all those great trucks, fantastic. Those Pro Talks are really cool. We did one last year, and I went in there with zero expectation of what was going to, how this was going to look.
Yeah.
The conversations that came out of that Pro Talk after Paul and I were done were some of the most memorable ones from that Matt's, because people really resonated with what we presented. This year, we're doing another one. They invited us back, so it's no longer an accident. It was a choice. So Toby had brought us back, and we're doing one this year on social media and its impact on trucking. Good, bad, do's and don'ts, and all that fun stuff. I'm really looking forward to this one because we've seen the movement of social media in the trucking and how much of a role it's played. So, and we know a lot of people reach out all the time asking for help. So this is, again, look at the pro talks, look at the floor plan, look at the events they have. And most of all, have conversations. If I know you, like I see you, and you and I have done mats together in passing for years, we know each other. I can talk to you anytime. I love catching up with you at mats, but during match, you're doing your thing. You're doing your thing. I'm doing my thing. It's afterwards that we link up, or we download with each other and say, hey, did you see this? Did you hear about this? Yeah. I challenge people to go out there and step outside of their comfort zone, go to the places that they want to see, not necessarily where they're going to run into their buddy. Certainly time to do that stuff, but mats is one of those things. There's the mats, there's the dinners afterwards, there's the after parties, there's the after parties. And then all of a sudden the next day you're waking up and it's halfway through the day. Like, don't miss out on mats because there's so much of it.
No, I agree. That's with any conferences. Don't miss out on the next day, because you can end up way too late and then miss the event that you came there to see. But absolutely, you can stay on track, do what you're there to do something different. So that's something that is very important. If you're going to go and run around with the same people that you always run around with and see the same people that you see every time, then you're going to just make the same cycle that you do every time. You're not going to learn anything new. So go find something that interests you. I actually I started today just going through the Matt's booth, clicking on everything that I did not know, and researching the websites. And there's quite a few, because
that's got to be a short list, because you know everything, my guy.
Matt's is actually the one. Okay, thanks. So Matt's is actually the one show where there's quite a bit of stuff that I don't necessarily know. The price point to get in is a little different on the lower end. Not saying anything there, but typically the shows that we go to are the bigger organizations and whatnot, and they're more mainstream tech oriented, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of other vendors at this place and at the convention center, and there's a lot of them. And it's just, they're everywhere. And so as you kind of start scrolling through everything, you realize there's a lot to be learned here if you can take the time. So I started just doing some due diligence and clicking on every booth that I didn't necessarily know. And even just around us, where our booths are, there's a couple of them. Well, what is funny is, as I was talking to Rob Peterson and we're sitting there, when I looked at his booth, I'm like, yeah, I know this company owner. I know this company owner. That we have Lone Mountain Truck Leasing that's right across from you. And well, I was actually in the group that started Lone Mountain Truck Leasing back in like 2002. So there's 10-4 Insurance, which is right down from them. That's another group that we know. So I mean, it's so there. I mean, just right in that immediate vicinity are some companies that are 1 degree of separation from me, and have worked with them for 20 years. So
and look at mats. I can look back at all the mats I've been to that I know you were there, and we might see each other in passing, say hi, but if you go by the booth. And I don't think this mats is going to be any different. We have a 20 by 20 booth. We're right there across from you guys. We're going to have the cents per mile set up there, but cents per mile is going to be out there talking to the different people at mats. Like, that's our whole shtick. Like, we want to talk to people, get their perspective, share their experience. I can't tell you how many times I walked away from that booth and I had a business card sitting there like, hey, reach out to me. Mats is a great way to network, and you should be wanting to grow your network. You certainly want to maintain the network you have. Of course, it would be Mats if I didn't run into you or Pedro or Hunter or Evan or Reed, and the list goes on. But I'm out there to meet new people as well as nurture the relationships I have. I'm out there I wear a couple different hats, being the founder of Hot Seat Services and the host of Cents Per Mile. It's 2 different hats. So I have to juggle that as well. So it's just one of those things where what we did was very intentional with the booth this year. We're going to have games. We're going to have set prize giveaway times where people can come. Our partnership with CDL Life on the booth is going to be beneficial to us because all of our sponsors and friends are bringing prizes that are going to be raffled off at certain times. There's going to be cornhole. There might be a person or something at the booth, but the rest of them are going to be out, walking the floor, talking to people, making new contacts. That's the smart use of time. And that's where the experience with Matt's comes, where you want to be out there. You want to see who's on the floor. You want to see if any of those products can be applied to your business or your endeavors. You want to meet new people. I'm excited for it. It's going to be Matt's overload. And you know how that goes. You go there, do the whole Matt's thing, and then you almost need a vacation afterwards.
Yeah. I'm coming off vacation and going to Matt's.
Ooh, that was a choice.
Yeah, I know. That's how it works. Just how it works. And then the kids are coming with while we're on spring break. So that's how it ended up working there. And we're excited to see Danielle Spinelli at Matt's too. So that's who just commented there. But,
yeah, I'm super excited. So my carrier portal is one of the newest sponsors to the cents per mile lineup. Super excited. She's done so much stuff with us in the past that it only made sense. The brands align. Super excited. You guys need to stay tuned because you're going to see her coming on, and she's always fun in the energy she brings. So just got to make sure we keep her away from you guys. You can't be hoarding her.
Oh, well, she was just on the show a couple weeks ago. So, but yeah, well, she'll be wherever she goes, wherever she wants to go, and she kind of carries entourage with her. I don't know. So
she's got a burst of energy. She has this aura to her, this excitement. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. She seems to be wherever I'm at whatever conference anyway. And I don't really think we engineer that. I just think it happens. So, it was happened at Manifest. It's happened at other places. So it is what it is. We run in the same circles. So. But all right, final question, and then we got to wrap this thing up. Final question. So if you had 5 minutes in front of every truck driver in America, no politics, no corporate talk, just you and the people who keep this country moving, what would you say to them, and what would they need to hear right now?
Work together. It's the one thing. You got your unions, you got all of this different stuff out there. The one thing in trucking that makes it unique, for good or bad, is as soon as a group tries to make meaningful change for it, there's another faction of it that's just going to sit there and take it for what it was. Work together, communicate your needs together, look at the bigger picture, and ask questions. If you're not asking questions, you're not doing yourself any service.
No, good answer. So be good to one another, work together, and
make trucking sexy again.
Yeah, there you go. We might have to build that as a tagline. I could see that as a sign. So too bad Matt's won't let us build a banner up in the sky between the two booths. So
Matt's making trucking sexy again.
Yeah. We might be able to even make a song out of that.
Tony Justice will be there.
Yeah, there you go. He's coming to our booth too. So
yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah. So at least I think he's coming to our booth. That's what I had heard. So who knows? Whatever. So, but all right. So how can people find you? How can they do their thing?
Yeah. So cents per mile every Wednesday on Freight Waves at 11:30. You can find me at Hot Seat Services. I'm on all the social media, generally under either my name on LinkedIn or Dr. Philip Trucking. And then rotationally, I'm through SiriusXM at this point.
Perfect. Well, as always, it's great talking with you. Looking forward to hanging out with you at Matt's. You had any other shows coming up?
I have Matt's. I have BCS in Indianapolis. I'll be doing a panel there I'm speaking on. And then I will be at UConnect, which is 10 Streets Vegas user conference.
Perfect. So we'll be seeing you at 2 of those 3 at least. So, but I really appreciate you coming on, and
invite
with you soon. So we'll wrap this one up. So trucking isn't just an industry. It's the heartbeat of America. Every product on every shelf, every piece of infrastructure, every meal on every table, it all exists because a truck put it there. And yet, every day, the people making the rules seem to forget that more regulations, more tariffs, more roadblocks. Meanwhile, drivers are grinding, carriers are holding on by a thread, and the next generation, they're looking at this industry and wondering, is it even worth it? But here's the truth. Nothing moves without trucking. Nothing. And that's exactly why we need to start treating this industry and the people in it like the essential force it is. That's why movements like Nothing Without Trucking matter, because this isn't just about freight. It's about respect. It's about making sure the people who keep this country running aren't forgotten, ignored, or pushed aside by people who don't understand the grind. So if you're a driver, a carrier, or anyone in this space, keep pushing, keep speaking up, and keep demanding better. Because at the end of the day, they don't build statues for people who sit on the sidelines. They build them for the ones who show up, put in the work, and refuse to back down. Keep the wheels turning, keep the conversations going, and most importantly, stay curious, stay informed, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Until next time, drive forward with purpose and innovation. Thanks for watching.